The salvage ship Horizon's Edge drifted through the darkest part of space that Kang Dae-ho had ever seen. No stars burned nearby. No planets hung in the black void. This was the dead zone, a place between galaxies where nothing lived and nothing moved. Nothing except the ancient ship that waited in the darkness. Dae-ho stood at the observation window and stared at the vessel floating a kilometer away. He had worked as a salvage engineer for 23 years. He had pulled wrecks from asteroid fields and recovered lost cargo from the edges of black holes. He had seen things that would make most people run screaming. But he had never seen anything like this. The alien ship was enormous. It stretched nearly 5 kilometers from end to end, shaped like a sleeping creature curled around itself. The hull was not metal or stone, or any material Dae-ho recognized. It seemed to shift between colors when he looked at it, sometimes silver, sometimes deep blue, sometimes a green so dark it was almost black. The surface looked smooth, but also alive somehow, like the skin of some vast creature dreaming in the void. Captain Baek Sung-woo walked up beside him. The captain was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had commanded salvage missions for longer than Dae-ho had been alive, and very little surprised him anymore. But even he seemed uneasy looking at the ancient vessel. The Galactic Council says this thing is 200,000 years old, Captain Sung-woo said quietly. They found it drifting here about 1,000 years ago. Every species in the galaxy has tried to wake it up. None of them succeeded. Dae-ho frowned. If the Council found it, why are we here? This should be their operation. The captain laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. Because the Council gave up 50 years ago. They declared the ship dead and forbidden to touch. Official order, no one is allowed near it. He paused, which is why we're being paid a fortune by people who don't care about official orders. The door behind them opened, and a young woman walked in. Yoon Ha-na was the youngest member of the crew, barely 28 years old. She had short black hair and bright, curious eyes that never seemed to stop looking at everything around her. She was brilliant with machines and computers, but she had a habit of touching things she should not touch. This made her very good at her job and very dangerous to work with. I finished scanning the exterior, Ha-na said, holding up a datapad. The hull has no damage. No doors, no windows, no visible openings of any kind. But here's the strange part. She walked over to the window and pointed at a section of the ship near what might have been the front. There's a faint energy reading coming from that area. Very weak, but definitely there. Dae-ho took the datapad and studied the readings. The Council reports say the ship is completely dead. No power, no systems, nothing. Ha-na shrugged. Maybe they missed it. Or maybe it only reacts to certain things. She grinned. Maybe it was waiting for us. Don't say things like that. Dae-ho muttered. He did not believe in fate or destiny. He believed in tools and hard work and being careful. These were the things that kept salvage crews alive. The fourth member of their team arrived a few minutes later. Dr. Im Yoo-jin was a xenoarchaeologist, a scientist who studied ancient alien civilizations. She was a small woman in her 50s, with silver-streaked hair and glasses that she constantly pushed up her nose. The people who had hired them had insisted she come along. They wanted someone who could understand what they found. I've been reading every report about this vessel, Doctor, Yoo-jin said as she joined them at the window. The architects. That's what the Council calls the species that built it. They disappeared 200,000 years ago without any explanation. No war, no plague, no disaster. They simply vanished from the universe. And they left this behind, Captain Sung-woo said. Yoo-jin nodded. The Council believes it was intentional. A message, perhaps, or a gift, or a test. Every species that found the ship tried to unlock its secrets. The Veleth used sonic frequencies for 100 years. The Krix tried drilling through the hull with plasma cutters. The Council itself spent decades trying to communicate with it using every language and mathematical system they knew. Nothing worked. Ha-na leaned forward, her eyes fixed on the ancient vessel. What if they were all overthinking it? Everyone looked at her. I'm serious, she said. All these advanced civilizations with all their technology and science. They tried everything complicated. What if the answer is simple? Deho shook his head. That's not how ancient alien technology works. You can't just walk up to a 200,000-year-old ship and push a button. Why not? Hana asked. Has anyone actually tried? No one had an answer for that. The next morning, they suited up and crossed the dark space between the ships. Deho went first, as he always did. Hana followed close behind, her helmet camera recording everything. Captain Sung Woo and Dr. Yujin came last, moving slowly and carefully. As they approached the ancient vessel, something strange happened. The faint energy reading that Hana had detected grew stronger. Not by much, but enough to notice. Deho checked his instruments and frowned. The ship is reacting to us, he said over the radio. Reacting how? The captain asked. I don't know. The power levels are increasing, but only slightly. It's like... He struggled to find the right words. It's like it knows we're here. Hana was already at the hull, running her gloved hand across the strange surface. Up close, the material was even more unusual than it had appeared from the horizon's edge. It was warm to the touch, even through her suit, and it seemed to vibrate faintly under her fingers. There, she said suddenly, pointing to a section of the hull that looked slightly different from the rest. It was a small area, maybe a meter across, where the surface curved inward just enough to notice. At the center of this depression was what looked like a raised circle about the size of her palm. Deho moved closer and examined it. His instruments showed that the energy readings were strongest here. This was the source of the power that Hana had detected. It looks like a button, Hana said. Don't touch it, Deho said immediately. Hana pulled her hand back. But her eyes never left the strange circle on the hull. She could feel something calling to her from inside the ancient ship. Something that had been waiting for a very long time. Dr. Yujin studied the area with her own instruments. The council reports don't mention anything like this. Either they didn't find it, or... She trailed off. Or what? Captain Sung-woo asked. Or it wasn't here before, Yujin said quietly. What if the ship created this for us? What if it was waiting for the right people to come along? Deho did not like that idea at all. Ships did not wait. Ships did not choose. Ships were machines. Nothing more. But as he looked at the ancient vessel stretching into the darkness around them, he was not so sure anymore. They returned to the horizon's edge to discuss their next move. The debate lasted for hours. Captain Sung-woo wanted to report back to their employers before doing anything. Dr. Yujin wanted to study the button more before touching it. Deho wanted to be extremely careful about everything. But Hana sat quietly, saying nothing, her mind already made up about what she was going to do. Hana could not sleep that night. She lay in her small cabin on the horizon's edge and stared at the ceiling, thinking about the button on the ancient ship. Something about it called to her in a way she could not explain. It was not a voice exactly. It was more like a feeling. A pull in her chest that would not go away. She had felt this way before. When she was a child growing up in the orbital stations around Earth. She would look out at the stars and feel certain that something was waiting for her out there. Her parents had laughed and called it imagination. Her teachers had said it was just curiosity. But Hana knew it was something more. She had spent her whole life following that feeling. And it had led her here, to the darkest corner of space, to a ship that had slept for 200,000 years. By the time morning came, she had made her decision. The crew gathered for breakfast in the ship's small galley. Captain Sung-woo looked tired. Dr. Yujin was reading something on her datapad. Deho sat quietly, eating his food and watching everyone with careful eyes. I contacted our employers last night, the captain said. They want us to proceed. They don't care about council rules or potential dangers. The colony world that hired us is running out of time. Their sun is dying, and they believe the architect's technology might be able to save it. Dr. Yujin looked up from her datapad. We don't even know what's inside that ship. It could be empty. It could be a weapon. It could be nothing at all. Or it could be exactly what they need. Hana said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. I've been thinking about this all night, she continued. Every species that tried to wake this ship used complicated methods. Technology, science, force. But what if the architects didn't want someone clever? What if they wanted someone genuine? Daeho shook his head. You're guessing. You have no evidence for any of that. You're right, Hana admitted. I'm guessing, but I've spent my whole life around machines, and I've learned something important. Sometimes the simplest answer is the right one. Sometimes you just need to push the button. The captain was silent for a long moment. Then he sighed and stood up. We'll go back to the ship today. We'll study the button more carefully. And then... He looked at Hana. Then we'll see. They crossed to the ancient vessel again that afternoon. The energy readings were even stronger now, as if the ship was becoming more awake just from their presence. Dr. Yujin ran every scan she could think of, but the results told her nothing useful. The button was made of some material that did not exist in any database. It seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, and it pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat. This is remarkable, Yujin whispered. The technology here is beyond anything we've ever seen. Even the most advanced council species couldn't build something like this. Daeho examined the area around the button with his engineering tools. There's no mechanism visible. No wires, no circuits. No moving parts. It's like the whole ship is one single piece. Biological technology, Yujin said. Grown rather than built. The architects must have been incredibly advanced. Perhaps the most advanced civilization ever to exist. Hana stood before the button, staring at it. The pull in her chest was stronger now, almost unbearable. She could feel the ship waiting, hoping, dreaming after 200,000 years of silence. I'm going to press it, she said. No, Daeho said immediately. We need more time. We need to study this properly. We've been studying it for a day already, Hana replied. Other species studied it for centuries. It didn't help them. Captain Sung-woo stepped forward. Hana, I understand how you feel. But this is not your decision to make alone. If something goes wrong, then it goes wrong, Hana said. But at least we'll know. At least we'll have tried. She turned back to the button before anyone could stop her. She pulled off her glove and placed her bare hand against the strange surface. It was warm, almost hot, and it seemed to tremble under her touch. Then she pressed down. For one terrible second, nothing happened. Hana felt her heart sink. Maybe she had been wrong. Maybe the button was just decoration. Or maybe it only responded to the right species. Or maybe, then the light came. It started at the button and spread outward in waves, racing across the hull of the ancient ship like ripples on water. Colors that Hana had no names for flashed and swirled around her. The ship began to vibrate, gently at first, then stronger. A deep humming sound filled the void, so low that she felt it more than heard it. Get back, Daeho shouted, grabbing her arm and pulling her away from the hull. But Hana could not look away. She watched as the ancient vessel came alive before her eyes. Lights appeared along the surface where there had been only darkness. Panels that had been invisible before now slid open to reveal windows that glowed with soft blue radiance. The ship was waking up, stretching after its long sleep, remembering what it was, and then a door appeared in the hull. Right where the button had been. It was not there one moment, and there the next. As if the ship had grown it just for them. Beyond the door was a corridor filled with that same soft blue light, leading deep into the heart of the vessel. I think it wants us to go inside, Hana said. This is a very bad idea, Daeho muttered. But even he could not hide the wonder in his voice. They entered the ancient ship one by one. Captain Sung-woo went first this time, his hand resting on the weapon at his side. Hana followed close behind, her eyes wide with amazement. The corridor was beautiful, the walls curved and smooth like the inside of a shell. Strange symbols covered every surface, glowing faintly as they passed. Dr. Yujin stopped to examine the symbols. This is a language, she breathed. An actual language. And look here, The patterns repeat. It's not random. It's trying to tell us something. The corridor led them deeper and deeper into the ship. They passed chambers filled with machines that looked like frozen music. They walked through gardens of crystalline plants that chimed softly as they moved. They saw what might have been sleeping quarters, or laboratories, or temples, or all of those things at once. Finally, they reached the center of the vessel. A massive chamber opened before them, dome-shaped and vast beyond measure. At the center of the chamber was a raised platform, and on the platform was a column of light that reached up to the ceiling far above. As they approached, the light began to change. It twisted and folded in on itself, taking a shape that was almost familiar. Not a body exactly, but a presence, something ancient and patient and very, very aware. A voice filled the chamber. It did not come from any direction. It simply was, appearing directly in their minds, carrying meaning beyond mere words. "I have waited," the voice said. "For 200,000 of your years, I have waited. Many have come to this place. Many have tried to wake me. All of them failed. But you—" The presence seemed to focus on Hana. "You did not try to solve me. You did not try to control me. You simply reached out and asked. That is why you succeeded, where all others failed." Hana stepped forward, her heart pounding. "I am the Watcher," the voice replied. "I am the last creation of those you call the architects. They made me to wait, to watch, to find those who would be worthy of what they left behind. And now, after all this time, I have found you." The light grew brighter, and Hana felt the weight of 200,000 years of hope pressing down upon her. The architects had vanished, but they had not given up. They had left behind everything they knew, everything they were, waiting for the right people to come along. And somehow, against all odds, those people were human. Daeho moved to stand beside Hana. His earlier doubts were gone, replaced by a mixture of fear and wonder that he had never felt before. "What do you want from us?" he asked. The Watcher's presence seemed to smile. "I want to ask you a question. Just one question. The same question I have asked every species that ever tried to wake me. Your answer will determine everything that comes next." The chamber fell silent. The four humans stood together before the ancient intelligence, waiting for the question that would change the course of history. And the Watcher spoke. The light of the Watcher pulsed gently as it prepared to speak. Hana could feel the ancient presence examining them, looking deep into their minds and hearts. It was not painful or frightening. It was more like being seen, truly seen, for the first time in her life. "Before I ask my question," the Watcher said, "you should know who made me and why." The light expanded, filling the dome with images that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Hana saw stars being born and dying. She saw civilizations rise and fall across countless worlds. She saw beings of light and shadow, creatures of crystal and flame, species so strange that her mind could barely understand them. And then she saw the architects. They were beautiful. Not in a way that Hana could describe with words, but in a way that made her heart ache just looking at them. They moved like music made visible, like mathematics given form. Their cities were songs frozen in crystal. Their technology was art. They had mastered the universe in ways that no species before or since had ever achieved. The architects were the first, the Watcher explained. When the universe was young and most of the galaxy was empty, they rose from a small world circling a forgotten star. They learned. They grew. They spread across the stars and made the cosmos their home. For millions of years, they guided the development of younger species. They were teachers, guardians, friends to all living things. The images shifted, showing the architects working with other species. They were patient and kind, sharing their knowledge freely. They asked for nothing in return, except that those they helped would one day help others. But even the architects could not escape the final truth, the Watcher continued. All things end. Even they were not immortal. They saw their own ending approaching, and they faced a choice. They could rage against the dying of their light. They could use their power to extend their existence at the cost of others. Many would have done so. But the architects chose differently. The images changed again. Hana saw the architects building ships like the one she stood in now. Thousands of them, scattered across the galaxy. Hidden in places where only the curious would find them. They chose to leave a gift, the Watcher said. Everything they knew, everything they were, everything they could have become. They placed it all in vessels like this one and sent us out to wait, to watch, to find those worthy of inheriting what the architects had built. Deho spoke up, his voice rough with emotion. Worthy how? What makes someone worthy? The Watcher's presence seemed to turn toward him. That is exactly the question I was created to answer. For 200,000 years, species have found me. Some were ancient when they arrived. Some were young. Some were powerful beyond measure. Some were barely able to reach the stars. All of them believed they deserved what the architects left behind. And you rejected all of them, Dr. Eugen said softly. Yes, the Watcher agreed. I asked them all the same question. I listened to their answers. And I found each of them wanting. Not because they were evil or foolish. Many were wise and kind in their own way. But none of them gave the answer I was waiting for. Captain Sung-woo crossed his arms. And you think we will? I do not know, the Watcher admitted. You are strange to me. Your species is young, barely emerged from your home world. You fight among yourselves. You make terrible mistakes. You are emotional and impulsive, and often irrational. The presence paused. And yet, there is something in you that I have not seen before. Something that made a young woman press a simple button when all others tried complicated methods. Something that made her act from pure curiosity and hope, rather than calculation or greed. The light focused on Hana again. She felt very small under that ancient gaze. But she did not look away. Now, the Watcher said, I will ask my question. Think carefully before you answer. There is no trick, no hidden meaning. Just tell me the truth as you understand it. The chamber fell completely silent. Even the soft humming of the ship seemed to fade away. Hana felt the weight of 200,000 years pressing down on her shoulders. Everything depended on what she said next. The question is this, the Watcher said. If I gave you the power to reshape stars, to heal dying worlds, to build civilizations and destroy them, to create life and end it, what would you do with that power? Hana stood frozen. She had expected something complex, something philosophical. But this question was simple. And simple questions were often the hardest to answer. She thought about the colony world that had hired them. Their sun was dying, and millions of people would die with it if nothing was done. They needed help desperately. That was why she was here. But the Watcher was asking about more than just one world. It was asking about the power to reshape reality itself. What would she do if she could do anything? Hana thought about all the species the Watcher had rejected. They must have given impressive answers. Speeches about justice and order. Plans for grand civilizations. Promises to use the power wisely and well. They had tried to convince the Watcher that they had the right to such power. But Hana did not want to convince anyone. She did not want to give a speech or make promises. She just wanted to tell the truth. I don't want power, she said finally. Not really. I never did. She paused, struggling to find the right words. I just want to help people. That's all. I see someone in trouble, and I want to make things better for them. Not because they deserve it, or because they can pay me back. Just because they need help, and I can give it. She looked at the column of light before her. If you gave me the power to reshape stars, I would use it to help. Not to rule. Not to build empires. Not to make myself important. Just to help whoever needed it, whenever they needed it, for as long as I could. The Watcher was silent for a long moment. The light pulsed slowly, as if thinking, that is a simple answer. the Watcher said at last. It's the truth, Hana replied. I don't know any other way to be. Daeho stepped forward. She's not just speaking for herself, he said. Look, I've worked with humans my whole life. We're not perfect. We argue and fight and do stupid things. But when it really matters, when someone really needs us, we show up. We help. It's just what we do. Dr. Yujin nodded. Every species has individuals who care about power and individuals who care about others. But in my experience, most humans are like Hana. They don't dream about ruling the galaxy. They dream about making things better for the people they love. Captain Sungwoo said nothing. He was a practical man who did not believe in destiny or fate. But as he looked at the ancient light before them, he felt something he had not felt in years. Hope. The Watcher's presence seemed to expand, filling the entire chamber with its awareness. Images flashed again, showing all the species that had come before. Their answers echoed through the space. We would bring order to the chaos of the universe, one species had said. We would ensure that our kind survives forever, another had answered. We would use this power to become the rulers of all existence. A third had declared. We would protect our own and destroy our enemies. Yet another had claimed. Grand answers, logical answers, answers that made sense from certain perspectives. But they were all about power, about control, about taking and keeping. Hana's answer was different. She did not want power at all. She wanted to give it away. She wanted to use it not for herself, but for others, for strangers, for anyone who needed help. The light grew brighter and brighter until Hana could barely look at it. Then, slowly, it began to fade into something gentler, something warm. In 200,000 years, the Watcher said, no one has given that answer. Until now. Hana felt tears running down her cheeks. She did not understand everything that was happening. But she knew, somehow, that something very important had just changed. You have passed the test, the Watcher continued. Not because your answer was clever, not because it was powerful, but because it was true. The architects did not want successors who would rule. They wanted successors who would serve. They wanted to leave their power with those who did not want power at all. The ancient ship hummed around them, alive and awake and ready. And deep in space, far from any world, the inheritance of the architects began to stir. The news spread faster than light itself. Somehow, despite all the distances and barriers between stars, the Galactic Council learned that the ancient ship had awakened. Within hours, the first warships began arriving at the edge of the dead zone. Within days, an entire fleet surrounded the area, weapons ready, waiting. Hana stood at the window of the horizon's edge, watching the council ships gather in the darkness. There were hundreds of them now, representing dozens of different species. The Velith had sent their great crystal carriers. The Krix had brought their swarm ships. Even the Pralathi, who rarely left their home system, had sent a small delegation. They were afraid. Hana could tell. After centuries of trying to wake the architect's ship, they had given up. They had declared it dead and forbidden. And now a handful of humans had succeeded where all of them had failed. Admiral Veth is requesting permission to board, Captain Sungwoo said, walking up beside her. Demanding it, really. The council is not happy with us. We didn't do anything wrong, Hana replied. We violated a council order by entering the dead zone. We touched the ship when it was forbidden. We woke something that the entire galaxy tried for centuries to wake. The captain shrugged. From their perspective, we've stolen the greatest treasure in the universe. Daeho joined them at the window. We could run. The ancient ship could take us anywhere in seconds. The Watcher showed me some of its capabilities. Nothing the council has could catch us. Hana shook her head. Running would only make things worse. They would see us as thieves forever. If we want to use the architect's technology to help people, we need the council to understand what happened. They allowed Admiral Veth aboard an hour later. He was a Velith, a being of living crystal that stood 3 meters tall. His body shifted colors as he moved, reflecting his emotions in patterns that Hana could not read. But his voice was cold when he spoke. "You have created a disaster," the Admiral said. "Do you understand what you have done? The Architect's technology could reshape the galaxy. It could end wars or start them. It could raise species up or destroy them completely, and you have given control of it to—" He paused, his crystal form flashing with something like disgust. "To humans. We didn't take control of anything," Hana said calmly. "The ship chose us. We just answered a question honestly." "A ship cannot choose," Admiral Veth replied. "It is a machine. Someone designed it to activate under certain conditions. That does not mean you deserve what is inside." Dr. Yujin stepped forward. "With respect, Admiral, I've studied the Architect's history for decades. They were not fools. If they designed their ships to wait for specific answers, they must have had a reason. Perhaps we should trust their judgment." The Admiral's form shifted to a darker color. "The Council does not trust the judgment of beings who have been dead for 200,000 years. We must consider the present. What happens if humans use this technology for war? What happens if they decide to conquer rather than cooperate? Then you would be right to stop us," Hana said. "But that's not what we're going to do." Before the Admiral could respond, the Watcher's voice filled the room. It came from everywhere at once, gentle, but impossible to ignore. "I have been listening," the Watcher said. "And I understand your fear, Admiral. You have seen what power does to lesser beings. You have watched species rise and fall based on their access to technology. You worry that humans will follow the same path." The Admiral's crystal form shifted uneasily. "You are the ship's intelligence? I am what remains of the Architect's hope," the Watcher replied. "I have watched your galaxy for 200,000 years. I have seen empires crumble and civilizations burn. I know the dangers of power better than any living being, but I also know that hiding from power does not make it go away. Someone will eventually inherit what the Architects left behind. The only question is who. And you believe humans are the right choice?" The Watcher paused. "I believe they have the right heart. Not the right technology. Not the right knowledge. Not the right position in your galactic hierarchy. But the right heart. When I asked them what they would do with ultimate power, they did not ask for it. They said they only wanted to help." Admiral Veth was silent for a long moment. His crystal form shifted through several colors that Hana could not interpret. Finally, he spoke again. "Words are easy. Actions are what matter. How do we know they will do what they promise?" "You don't," Hana answered before the Watcher could speak. "You can't know for certain. You just have to trust us. Or you can refuse to trust us. And we can all spend the rest of our lives fighting over something that should be shared." She took a step toward the Admiral. "I know humans have a bad reputation. We're young. We're aggressive. We make mistakes. But we're also trying to be better. That dying colony world that hired us to find this ship? They didn't want power. They wanted to save their people. That's all most of us want. Just to take care of each other." A new voice spoke from the doorway. "She's telling the truth." Everyone turned to see an elderly alien enter the room. Counselor Nix was one of the oldest beings in the galaxy, a member of a species so ancient that even they had forgotten their origins. He looked like a humanoid made of mist and starlight, constantly shifting and reforming as he moved. "I have studied the Architects for longer than any living being," Counselor Nix said. "I was there when we first discovered this ship 1,000 years ago. I have read every report, analyzed every attempt to wake it, and I believe the Watcher's judgment is correct." Admiral Veth's form shifted to angry red. "Counselor, with respect, the Architects did not want successors who were strong," Nix continued, ignoring the Admiral. "They did not want successors who were wise, or powerful, or old. They wanted successors who would give rather than take, who would serve rather than rule, who would see power as a responsibility rather than a right." He moved closer to Hana, studying her with eyes that were older than most stars. "I see that in this one. I see it in all of them. The room fell silent. Admiral Veth's form shifted through several more colors before finally settling on a pale blue that Hana suspected meant resignation. "The Council will not accept this easily," the Admiral said. "Many species will see humans as a threat. Some may even try to take the technology by force." "Then we'll prove them wrong," Hana said. "Not with weapons or threats, with actions. We'll help anyone who needs it. We'll share what we learn. We'll be what the architects hoped we would be." The Watcher's voice filled the room once more. "That is exactly what I hoped you would say. The architects did not leave their technology to be hoarded. They left it to be given away. Every secret they knew, every tool they built, every piece of knowledge they gathered over millions of years, it all belongs to the universe now. And you, Hana, will be the one to share it." Hana looked at the Admiral, at Counselor Nix, at her crew standing behind her. She thought about the dying colony and all the other worlds that needed help. She thought about the vastness of space and all the suffering it contained, and she made a promise to herself that she would spend the rest of her life keeping. "Then let's get started," she said. The ancient ship hummed its approval, and somewhere in the dead zone, the first light of a new era began to dawn. 1 year passed, then 2, then 5. Hana stood on a platform floating above a dying sun, watching as architect technology did what physics said was impossible. Energy flowed from the ancient ship into the heart of the star, repairing damage that had accumulated over billions of years. The sun that had been slowly dimming would burn bright for another billion years now. The colony world circling it would survive. Below her, millions of people celebrated. They lit fires and sang songs and held each other in the streets. They had been told for generations that their world was doomed. Now they knew that their children would grow old and their grandchildren would be born under the same sun that had warmed their ancestors. Hana smiled and turned away from the view. There was more work to do. There was always more work to do. The galaxy had changed in the years since the Watcher awoke. At first, as Admiral Veth had predicted, many species resisted the idea of humans controlling architect technology. Some sent warships, some tried political pressure. Some simply refused to believe that the ancient ship had really awakened at all, but Hana and her crew had proven the doubters wrong. One act of kindness at a time, they had stopped a plague on a Crixhive world. They had prevented a war between two species who had been fighting for centuries. They had rebuilt a moon that had been shattered by an ancient disaster. They had done these things not because they wanted something in return, but simply because they could help, and so they did. Slowly, the galaxy began to trust them. Daeho walked up beside her as the celebration continued below. He looked older now. His hair shot through with gray. But his eyes were brighter than they had been when she first met him. The doubt he had carried for so long had faded, replaced by something like purpose. "The Velith sent a message," he said. "They want to build a joint research station with us. They want to study architect technology together. As equals. The Velith sent a message can. The Velith sent a message station. The Velith sent a message station together. As equals." Hana nodded. "Good. That's what we wanted. The Council is meeting tomorrow to discuss admitting humans as full members. Counselor Nix says the vote will be close, but he thinks we'll win. That's good too." Daeho looked at her carefully. "You don't seem excited." Hana watched the celebrations below for a moment before answering. "I am excited. I'm happy that things are working out. But I keep thinking about all the worlds we haven't reached yet. All the people still suffering. Sometimes it feels like, no matter how much we do, there's always more that needs to be done." "There always will be," Daeho said gently. "That's not failure. That's just life. All we can do is help where we can, and hope others follow our example." "Others are following," a new voice said. They turned to see Dr. Yujin approaching, her datapad in hand as always. "I've been tracking the reports. Species across the galaxy are starting to help each other more. Not because they have to, not because they'll gain something, just because they've seen what we're doing and they want to do the same." Hana felt warmth spread through her chest. This was what the architects had hoped for. Not that their technology would be used to rule the galaxy, but that it would inspire others to be better, to give instead of take, To serve, instead of dominate. The Watcher spoke directly into her mind, as it often did now. Its voice was warm and proud. You have done well, Hana. Better than I dared hope. The architects would be pleased. I couldn't have done it alone, Hana thought back. The crew helped. The council came around eventually. Even Admiral Veth is almost friendly now. That is exactly the point. You did not try to do everything yourself. You shared. You trusted. You built connections instead of walls. That is why you succeeded where others failed. Hana smiled. She had never gotten used to having an ancient alien intelligence in her head, but she had come to appreciate the Watcher's wisdom. It had seen so much over its long life. It understood things that she was only beginning to learn. There's something I need to show you, the Watcher said. Something important. Hana felt herself being guided toward the heart of the ancient ship, which now orbited the healed sun alongside the horizon's edge. She found herself in the central chamber where she had first met the Watcher, all those years ago. The column of light was brighter now, stronger, and in its glow, she saw something new. A doorway. Or rather, the image of a doorway, shimmering in the light, like a dream made visible. The architects did not leave just one ship, the Watcher said. They left thousands, scattered across this galaxy and others, waiting for the right people to find them. You have proven yourself with this vessel. Now it is time to wake the others. Hana stared at the doorway in wonder. Through it, she could see distant stars and strange worlds, galaxies she had never imagined. An entire universe waiting to be helped. I don't know if I'm ready for that, she admitted. You are, the Watcher replied simply. You were ready from the moment you pressed that button. You just didn't know it yet. Captain Sung-woo found her there an hour later, still staring at the doorway. He was fully gray-haired now, retired from command but still serving as an advisor. He looked at the shimmering gateway and whistled softly. More work to do? He asked. Always, Hana said. Good, the old captain smiled. I was getting bored anyway. Dae-ho and Dr. Yujin joined them, along with a dozen new crew members who had come aboard over the years. Humans and aliens alike, all working together, all following the same dream. Hana looked at her family. That was what they were now, she realized. Not just a crew. A family bound together by something stronger than blood, or species, or history. The architects believed the universe was not meant to be conquered, the Watcher said, its voice filling the chamber. It was meant to be gardened, cared for, helped to grow. Hana stepped toward the doorway. She could feel the pull of distant stars, the call of worlds that needed help. It was the same feeling she had felt all her life. The certainty that something was waiting for her out there. Now she knew what it was. Purpose. Then I guess we'd better get to work, she said. She pressed her hand against the shimmering surface of the doorway, just as she had pressed the button years ago. Simple, honest, true. The light blazed bright, and the gateway opened. On the other side, 1,000 ancient ships began to wake, sensing the approach of the people they had been waiting for. Across galaxies and across time, the architect's dream finally came true. Not an empire of conquest, not a reign of power, but a garden of kindness, spreading from star to star, world to world, heart to heart, and at the center of it all, a young woman who had never wanted anything more than to help. Hana smiled and stepped through the door. There was so much work to do, so many people to help, so much good to be done, and she could not wait to get started.